Hey, Ibrahima, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. The man himself right there in New York City. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really well, really well. It's good to see you. As usual, you're always on time.
Hey, when Gilles Akodi is your model, you have to be on time when he invites you to a call.
When Cheikh Ibrahima Diong is your model, you have to be on time when you're calling him, and you have the honor to have him as the first.
Absolutely. And we've created so much excitement about this interview around the world, so we have to be on time to honor them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are a few minutes before the time. We'll give maybe people 1 or 2 minutes before we really get into the gist of things. But how are you coping? You know, it's a difficult time for everyone. How are you coping, my brother?
I tell you what, I'm trying to look at the positive side of this, in the sense, what makes a lot of people anxious, you don't know when it's going to end. But it's an opportunity to be with the family. It's an opportunity to reflect on your life. It's an opportunity to have a deep soul searching on yourself. So from that perspective, I find it extremely positive. But obviously, we feel extremely sorry for the loss of life around the world.
Yeah.
And our compassion goes to them as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What about you? How are you coping?
So we're fortunate, and we thank God. We were on holiday in New York. Our children are studying here, as you know, and we were on holiday in New York, and we decided to stay because we knew that we wouldn't be traveling anyhow. So we're working from here. New York is your city, and it's my city, so we love this place. But gosh, I've never been in New York and not gone out. So I'm at home all the time, except when we go to the laundry or if we go to the supermarket. But we feel that blessed, really, that this experience is a unique experience, and you can look at it in two ways. As you know, we really feel blessed to go through this, to stop, to just think about our lives and the lives with our brothers, sisters, people that we love. And we're getting a lot of messages from that.
Absolutely. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, maybe we should actually have a 1-week annual confinement.
Yeah.
To make everybody to get back to the basics, but also to make sure we protect our environment. Because what the Paris Accord on CO2 has not been able to achieve, unfortunately, COVID-19 has been able to do that by getting at the emission down, the environment protected. So hopefully, each of us will learn from the saga that we're going through and be a better person going forward, isn't it?
Indeed, indeed. Indeed, absolutely. I really hope so. Let's carry on this discussion. I'm going to say to the people who have joined already, this is going to be in English. Je ferai quelques commentaires en français, des résumés des pensées de Ibrahima Cheikh Diong. Nous allons commencer dans 2 minutes. On essaiera de commencer généralement à l'heure pour ces événements. We generally try to start on time. Thank you for being on time. But we'll start in a couple minutes. So, as you said, it's really a time for reflection and to really cherish the people that you love and reach out to those you may not have as much time to reach to on a day-to-day basis.
I tell you what, I think the biggest winners are the children at home. Because for some of us who travel so much around the world and never get a chance to pose and be with your kids, this is an opportunity to get to know them, an opportunity at least to discover them. So it's incredible how I learned so much about my son that I did not know before.
I tell you. How is he doing, by the way?
No, he's doing very well. I'm actually going back to the basic of algebra and mathematics and grammar and all that kind of stuff, which is a fun thing to do with your kids. So it's a great moment for family. It's a great moment for the kids as well. What about you? How are your kids doing?
They're doing very well. They're studying they're doing tele-studies, as they call it these days, and they're doing really, really well. They're enjoying this time with us. We're enjoying this time with them. We're discovering them differently because they're young adults now, and they've been away for 2 or 3 years from the house. But we're really enjoying the time with them.
That's very good.
Let's get started, and other people will join as we go. So, Ibrahima Cheikh Diong, thank you very much for joining the series of Transform and rise. This is the theme, the umbrella theme that we've used at Acosphere. We are honored to have you for an interview. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little bit of the background of Mr. Cheikh Ibrahima Diong. He's currently the founder and the chairman of the board of directors of the Dakar-based Pan-African advisory firm, very much sought after, that's this firm, Africa Consulting and Trading. He has a very rich history from a corporate standpoint. Previously, he was a senior advisor of the corporate and investment banking at BNP Paribas.
Not good music. The audience may be a bit undisciplined and they will disturb the musician. So the job of a conductor is really to make sure that there is a communication between the speakers, the musician in this case, and the audience. That's really how I would define moderators. Now, there are a couple of qualities that I've seen in very good moderators. I'm not going to talk about the technical one. I'm talking about the human side of a moderator. And I think the number one quality is what I call generosity. When you're moderating people who are extremely knowledgeable, you have to make sure you don't make it to be about yourself. It's about really the people you're moderating. So therefore, if they shine, you will shine. So you have to make them look good, but you also have to help them tell their stories and tell it properly. I think the second quality is humility. You may know a lot about the topic, but you don't have to show off all the time to the audience that you actually know more than the speakers you're actually moderating. So if you do that, eventually what comes across, you're a very humble man, even if you're very knowledgeable as well. I think the third part, which I find extremely important, you have to have some great listening skills, Gilles. After all, when people are expressing their opinions, you have to make sure that you listen to what they're saying before you move on to the next speaker, as opposed to just moving between speakers and not reflecting what they're telling you. And I think the last one I would say, you have to be extremely curious. Today, you're moderating telecommunication. The next day, you're moderating agriculture. Curiosity will allow you eventually to be able to actually show some interest in the topic you're moderating. So those are actually what I consider as some of the basic human skills of a good moderator.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So tell me, is it possible, because there are lots of young people listening here, is it possible for everyone and anyone to become professional moderator? And if so, what does it take?
Well, the short answer, Gilles, is yes. Anybody can be a good moderator as long as you actually display those human qualities. And by the way, I forgot to mention, in addition to the human skills, you got to be somebody who is fun and funny and energetic to be a good moderator.
I guess that's you.
I don't know, but let me just try to be humble and modest about that. But when you jump on any stage, you have to bring in your energy and your fun. And that energy will carry the day. So it's very important to bring it in a way that's not a show off, but something that actually really add value to the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think the short answer is, Gilles, yes, it is possible to move from what I consider a natural moderator to a professional moderator. I was mentioning this to a friend of mine yesterday. We're all moderators. In the sense, when you have family and you have kids, you're moderating your kids in making sure everybody has an opportunity to have their say. You're also making sure that you're being fed all the kids. By doing so, you're actually moderating your family and your kids. And we all have friends, and they get together sometime, and they want to have a conversation. There's always that one friend who mobilizes the floor. And as a moderator, you make sure everybody has a say in that conversation among your friends. And sometimes we go out on a dinner date or a discussion with a friend and a one-on-one, and there's a time that friend may end up just doing all the talking. So if you actually are able to moderate your children and moderate your friends and moderate in the workplace, you can then transfer that to being a professional moderator. Now the difference, Gilles, is that professional moderators requires a bit of more structure and organization. Let me take you through the process. What I consider as the number one important criteria is the ability to respect the preparation of any event you're moderating.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure, you can. Go ahead, Jim.
I want to take you back before I take you forward. I really want to get into the process. But so what you're saying is everybody can actually do so, and actually everybody does so, sometimes in the social life, sometimes in the professional life, sometimes with their friends at a bar. So for young people that have not had the experience, can you just tell us a story of your early moderation? Maybe two even. One of things that worked very well, and one of things that maybe could have been better, and what you learned.
I tell you what, I mean, that is one of the things that I used to do in the early days is to be what I call over-prepared. I have a topic to moderate. I learned so much about a topic. I want to come into the moderation room. I just want to display my knowledge of the topic, and I turn off everybody, turn off the audience, turn off the speakers, took away the kind of punchline. That's not the way to do it. So even if you know so much about a topic, you got to be smart about the way you bring out the knowledge into the way you ask questions, and good questions. I think number two, it's really important. In my early days, I learned very quickly. A conversation that does not end with some takeaway of some key messages is almost like you have a good panel, but there are no takeaways. So the ability to actually summarize a conversation, in my view, makes everybody feel like we did not waste our time, and we took something away from the conversation as well. And the last point I think, Gilles, is really important to me. When I started, I did not focus on money. I was started in building a brand as a moderator, somebody who was professional and serious, and the money will come afterwards. And that's probably the case right now.
It's very important that you say this, because in the fast-paced world in which we live, it seems that people have no time. They want to get from zero to 100, so from no money to money right away. But it's really important. What you said is you have to really take the time, and you have to have passion. You have to focus on the steps before the money comes. So that leads us to the next point. You actually started on it. So what's the process that it takes to become a top moderator?
I mean, there is what I consider the three pillars of moderation. There is the preparation, the event itself, and the post-event. On the preparation side, the two things, at least from my own experience, that I find extremely useful, there's what I call the event organizing preparation, and then
aboard your client, an interview, something really, really important, the most important thing in your life, and you got caught up into that pressure, that mental pressure, and couldn't find a way to breathe, come out of it, free yourself. And perhaps you have friends, people you know,
the content. On the event side of it, what I find extremely useful, it never come to a stage you have not seen before as a moderator. So your ability to actually go to the room, to the place, work with the technician, make sure the microphone works, and coordinate with the production company or production managers, and talk to the interpreters, and talk to those who are involved, allows you to be familiar with the scene, so it does not look a surprise, because anything that could go wrong, as you and I know, will go wrong. And so you have to be able to be prepared in terms of just understanding the run-up show, understanding the technicalities of the event, so that you're comfortable with the mic. And sometimes the production company will actually test your voice, particularly somebody like myself was a deep voice. You want to make sure actually they understand your voice and fine-tune it so you can be understood. And I think the second part of preparation is really the substance. You got to be able to reach out to your speakers in advance, understand what their point of views will be, what they have said in the past, and have the ability to be able to connect the different speakers to what I call a storytelling. So that way, you're able to understand where do they come from, what's their perspective, and be able to ask them some good questions. And I think in the preparation also, it's really important to have what I consider a script of any event. You really need to understand at the end of the conversation, what do you have to get out of it? What messages you have to get out of it? So at least it doesn't look like a conversation that has no end as well. Now, the second step, Gilles, is the event itself. Now, not all events are the same. Different events, different contexts. If you're moderating, let's say, an event with heads of states, it's very protocol-driven. You can't improvise too much on the protocol, otherwise you're going to create a diplomatic incident. So you have to be able to really get the name of the president quite well. The protocol has to be right, and you have to be able to stay on time, not overdo it. Otherwise, you end up actually overshadowing the heads of states and so on. If you're moderating a panel, what I consider to be extremely important as a moderator to remove yourself from the panel, because you're not a speaker, you're a moderator. So therefore, your ability to actually distribute the floor between a different speaker, that will help you to tell a good story, to make sure that everybody feels you're being fair to them in telling their stories and sharing their perspective as well. Now, the biggest challenge on panel, obviously, is the audience. You have some members of the audience. They want to be panelists. They have more to say than the speakers themselves, and they tend to speak for too long. I have so many great stories here to tell you about those audience members who want to be a panel members, and they take the floor for 2 minutes, for 3 minutes, for 2 hours, and you have to cut them off diplomatically. And then the last part of really the event, Gilles, is what I call the post-event management. Anybody who hires you to run an event, you want to make sure that they're happy with your delivery. So you need to sit down with them afterwards and make sure they give you feedback so you can improve your moderation so that in the future you become better, but you meet their expectations as well. Now, one thing which is very important, don't rush to share your videos in a social network before your client actually has used the videos and the link to do their own work. This is not your event, it's their event, and they brought you in to provide your services. You cannot actually take it away, and they need to actually make sure they're comfortable with the material before you actually share it. So that's what I would say, Gilles.
So it's amazing because, perhaps some people listening are not used to what it takes to be an excellent and a world-class moderator, but you go into all kinds of fine details. And if you allow me, I'll just share with everyone here that, you took time yesterday and the day before, for 3 days, you were communicating with me sometimes at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, just for this 30 minutes. I'm just in awe of the detailed level of preparation that you take, and I just praise you for that. But I wanted to just summarize a couple points. It is important for moderators, therefore, and correct me if I'm wrong, to really consider the audience that they're focusing on, but consider the preparation as well. Every detail, the mic, is it working? So you come before. The preparation is really important. And the other thing that you said is it's not the same if you're moderating an event with a president or if you're moderating panels. So can you just explain a bit on that?
Well, first of all, let's start with the audience, because the audience is not unanimous in the sense of like the level of understanding. You got 3 different categories in any audience. There are people who are extremely knowledgeable of the topic you're about to moderate, and obviously they like to challenge the speakers on the panel. They're the second category of people who know little about the topic, they're very curious. And they're the third category, they know very little or know nothing about the topic you're about to moderate. So you have to be able to make sure, as a moderator, you basically find a middle ground so anybody who is in the audience understands the basic message you want to get across. It doesn't become an intellectual conversation, too sophisticated to really reach the masses. And that's the reason why, Gilles, you've seen me before doing it. Anytime I'm moderating an event, if the messages from the audience or from the speakers, it's not clear enough, I like to come back and break it down into simple terms for everybody in the audience to really understand what we talk about. So management of the audience is extremely important because it can make or break your event as a moderator. And I think on the preparation side, again, as I say, one of the things I did not mention here, it is very important to meet with your speakers 30 minutes before you get on stage. that 30 minutes allows you to bring them together. We're going on stage as a team. This is not a show of Ibrahima or Gilles or another person. It's a show where all of us are players. They come together as a team, as opposed to being a show one person and so on. And that's very important because I've seen event where the speaker wants to monopolize the floor for 2 hours. I say, hang on a second, you're not alone here. There are other speakers on the panel as well.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to ask you two questions in one. The first one is funny anecdotes that you've had as a moderator, and then how do you build your network so that people keep asking you? Because, you know, I know you have more work than you would want, and you've been so generous to give other people moderating jobs. But how do you actually build a network so that you're in demand? And also just a few funny anecdotes as a moderator that you've had with the public or anything else.
Well, let's start with a funny anecdote, because I got plenty of funny anecdotes, Jill, as you can imagine. Having moderated in different parts of the world, there are always some very funny cases that I deal with. I think the most common one is that you have 1 hour of a session. You actually turn to the audience, and one person in the audience wants to speak for 2 hours. And your ability to actually stop that person can actually make or break your event, because sometimes some people just can't get rid of the microphone and they want to just keep talking forever. And I had this case in Lome. I will not mention the name, just to keep him confidential. And this guy basically took the floor and just wanted to ask a very simple question, but he spoke for almost 50 minutes. But quite frankly, what he really wanted to say, we should talk about access to finance to African SMEs. So in 2 seconds, I was able to basically translate what he said in about 20 minutes. So that's always the case to the speakers, and they get extremely angry, extremely passionate about making their points. But I always do it with a smile. I come over to them and say, hey, I think you made your point. We heard you. Let's just sort of move on. And I had another funny case where I had a speaker in the audience, an audience member. He was so knowledgeable of the topic, I had to invite him to join me on stage to be a panel member because he had so much to say about the issue. And I said, look, maybe your place is on stage as opposed to being in the audience. There's always kind of some funny moments like that. So there are plenty of stories. Maybe one day when I write my book about moderation, I can tell you more stories about moderation and the funny stories as well. Now, how do you build your network here? This is a very important question. In the sense I mentioned to you earlier, it's really important as a moderator, you build your brand as a professional moderator, as somebody who has credibility, somebody who does the homework, and somebody who can add value to an event and make it extremely well-run and professionally on track. Once you build a reputation, you don't even have to make a lot of actually marketing to get some more businesses. Because you and I know very well, Gilles, a moderator can make or break an event. You can spend 1 year preparing for an event. You get a bad moderator, they can come in because they talk too much, because the questions are not necessarily long, and in the end, you end up getting an event that's completely go airwire. So I think what I consider to be the most important thing is really building a reputation to be known as serious, passionate, professional, reliable, and in the end, the business will come as well. And last but not least, there's a network of moderators, of African moderators around the world, and they tend to be tight together. So if you're known to be a good moderator, people will refer you to other events all the time, because you can't be everywhere all the time. So make sure that you're known in the community as somebody who is reliable. So when you're referred to an event, you will actually walk away with a great reputation as well.
Excellent. Some really good golden nuggets. And thank you, Nabu, and thank you everyone there for being here and interacting also. I've seen that there are a few questions. We'll come to them. I have one last question on my script that I'd like to go through with you before we get on to the other questions. There is one that's very interesting that I'll ask a bit later. But from from having built a network and having done all of this, you have so much experience in public speaking in general, but moderating, you're one of the best, and I admire you. I think you're one of the best in the world.
Thank you, Gilles.
I've seen people in the States, in America, I've seen people in Canada, in Asia, I've seen people in Europe, and you're definitely one of the very best, if not the best, that I know. So what advice would you give to young people who aspire to become you, or to even outshine you?
Yeah, I hope they will outshine me, Gilles, because I'm getting some growing hairs. I like to retire as a moderator. So it's important that the young people will actually take over from me.
We need you.
Exactly. No, literally. Look, I mean, I tell you what I consider really the 3 top advice that I can give to any young moderators. Number 1, don't actually underestimate the importance and the power of preparation. Gilles, you and I know you may be good, but if you prepare, you're excellent. There's a difference between being good and being excellent. And the difference comes from the fact that you're well prepared. And not all the events are the same. So therefore, when you do one event after the other, don't just act like you're going to ask the same question, because otherwise there's no value addition, there's no energy. So you have to look at every event from full. So prepare yourself. People will respect you as a moderator because they feel that you respect them by being well prepared. I think the second advice I give to young people, when you start in the business of moderation, don't focus on money. Focus on building your brand and your reputation. The money will come afterwards. Because once you become a reliable and a professional moderator, you don't even have to knock on many doors. People will knock on your door because they've seen your videos, they've seen you perform, and they will come back to you really as a moderator. So make sure to focus on quality and professionalism as opposed to focusing really on trying to get the next opportunity. So don't take anything for granted. Even that small opportunity you have, don't refuse it. Go and moderate the smallest event that you can imagine that you can do. And last but not least, be generous. Connect with other moderators in the business. In my case, every single time I have an opportunity to bring in a young moderator to co-moderate with me, I always bring them on board, because when I started in the business, there are so many older moderators who gave me the chance to moderate along them. And I think it's my opportunity now, or my turn, to give back. And Gilles, you are a perfect example for that. You and I have co-moderated. I've given you opportunity, you've given me opportunity. And I think it's our turn to give the opportunity to young people as well.
I fully agree, and you're very generous in sharing the the wealth of connections that you have, and I really appreciate it. And I know a lot of young people have benefited from it already. So thank you. Don't go away. We're gonna go a little over the time. It's 5:02, so we have 2 questions already. There's one on screen, but there was one before. For those of you who have never seen Ibrahima Cheikh Diong moderate, it's a journey. It's a real journey. It's incredible. First, his presence, his voice really takes the whole public, and it's as if he puts his arm around the whole public. Then the next thing that's really impressive is his memory. So some people think that obviously he's a genius, but that we all know. But some people just wonder, and the question is, how do you do to more? And I'll read some of the comments of everybody. We're really pleased and thankful that you attended this first Q&A, and hope that it's been very useful. for you. So the question is, what are your actions during this crisis of COVID?
Yeah, but I think, first of all, by doing this interview, we are making sure that we're sharing our knowledge with the rest of Africa. Jill, you and I know that at this time of the year, annually, I used to be all over the world moderating events on different stages. And the fact that actually I'm not there, but I'm using this medium to share my humble talent with the rest of Africa, it's our way of contributing and leveraging COVID to discuss the rest of Africa. In addition to that, where I am mostly based in Senegal, I am working with the task force of Senegal on COVID, along with my colleagues who must be online by now, to make sure that we can support innovation, make sure that we can support the tailors in Senegal so they can make masks, or some of the engineers who can make ventilators, or make other, what they call some PPE, or we call them actually some equipments that are necessary for COVID in our country. So they make they actually produce locally. So there's so many ways you can get involved. But in my humble way, I'm trying as much as I can to leverage my network around the world. See if we can support Africa as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So there's a question of a latecomer. Maybe you can summarize it. He says, "What is?" And it's Umar. What are the steps? What is step one for someone who would like to become a moderator without any prior extensive public speaking experience?
Well, I tell you what. Remember I said earlier, Gilles, that we're all natural moderators in the sense that oftentimes that you are in the office and you're asked to chair a meeting and you're too shy to be the chair of the meeting because you're too introvert. So next time around you offer an opportunity to moderate or to actually chair a meeting with your colleagues, do not refuse that opportunity, because those are some of the conditions and the opportunities that will make you a good moderator. Because when you are running a meeting with your colleagues, you're distributing the floor, you're summarizing, you're taking questions from different colleagues in the office. By doing so, you're actually building the basics of being a good moderator. What maybe will change if you get to a bigger stage, a bigger audience, you may have to be a little bit more, you may be nervous a little bit, but your fundamentals are being built bit by bit. I think second, it could be even in your association, in your neighborhood, or even any non-profit organization that you belong to. If there was a meeting and they ask you to chair and facilitate the conversation, do not refuse the opportunity, because now you are training and practicing. So you'll get to the point where basically you can move to the big league where you have to moderate some bigger event, but it's bit by bit. You can build your track record, your reputation, and you'll get there one day.
Excellent. So we might take another question in a second, but frankly, people have been making some very nice comments about you and I. Our sister that we love. Not to name her, she'll recognize her. As I said, we can't be Odshan, and her name starts with a F for Fabienne. If you see what I mean. And we thank her, and we thank everybody who's there that we know and the people that we don't know. Also, just a little bit of information. We will probably use my page going forward to have these live because it's more personal. I might make it a public page, I don't know, but we might use this page so that people can come on. We had, as you know, Ibrahima, a training before, and we were speaking about preparation. You are just absolutely a model in terms of the amount of time that you have spent. We spent 30 minutes here. You probably spent 10 hours with me just preparing for this. So it's a good example for the people who are participating on this. And I'll leave you the last words. What are some of the golden nuggets, some of the messages, key messages you want to leave to our audience today?
Well, I think number one, Gilles, is really the passion and the fun part. You may prepare yourself, you may actually have a lot of knowledge, but if your delivery is not done with a lot of energy and fun, most likely your audience will turn off and your speakers may feel like you're not actually bringing energy and value addition to the event. So make sure that your energy and your fun part come with you as you come on stage, because eventually people will stay and listen to you because you feel like you're a fun person to listen to as well. I think second, let's put it this way, you don't have to be 50 years old or 60 years old to be a good moderator. If at the age of 20 or 25, you're going to be a moderator, yes, you can. As Obama would have said, yes, we can. But all you have to do is just to respect the basic principle of preparation, humility, generosity, and curiosity. And then start from somewhere and build your reputation as you sort of go along. And I think last but not least, there's so many African moderators around the world. In fact, Gilles knows this quite well. One of my ambitions, and Gilles' ambition as well, is to build a network of African moderators around the world so we can support each other, so that then the older moderators can actually mentor the younger moderators. And eventually we'll get to the point, beyond just moderating, we create a platform so we can hear the African perspective, the African stories, the African narrative, so that when we have issues about Africa, it's not always moderated by non-Africans, where we can make sure that we can control the narrative of Africa. It's a very passionate job. It's something that you can get paid very well when you do it very well. But overall, try to have some fun when you do it. Don't focus on the money too much.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And on this, I heard you sing before, something by Louis Armstrong. You didn't know I was going to do this one, but your voice is such a great one. Why don't we finish on this? Isn't it a wonderful world?
I say to myself, what a wonderful world. The skies are blue. That's Louis Armstrong. I do that as an icebreaker when I actually moderate retreat.
And you do it well.
Those words to get people actually to get out singing, and what a wonderful world.
Yeah.
But if you like Louis Armstrong, what a wonderful world. And I feel the world we live in, for me, it's a wonderful world. And if you go into a moderation and see it as a wonderful world, You could be the best mother you can imagine. So what a wonderful world, Jill.
Thank you so much, Ibrahima Cheikh Diong. It's been an honor to interview you here on this Instagram Live. Thank you very much, everybody. Please like our different social media. Pass on the image of Ibrahima Cheikh Diong along and tell your friends that every Thursday at this time, 4:30 GMT, 4:30 Senegal time and Ivory Coast time on the West Coast, we will be doing this in English. Before this, we've had a training session. Very well. The presence was very high. Thank you very much. And here too, the presence is high. So every Thursday, we'll be having our training at 3 p.m., followed by this Instagram at 4:30. And for English speakers, we'll do the training in English on Fridays at 3 p.m. Thanks, everybody. Ibrahima, my love to you, to the family. My heart is with you and with everybody who is going through these trying times and changing times. Let's make it fun and let's learn some new skills. Thank you, Ibrahima.
Hey, Gilles, I cannot finish without giving you credit as well. You know, you and Naja are my role model when it comes to public speaking, and you got me to be passionate about the world of public speaking. So thank you very much, and keep on doing what you're doing because you're doing a wonderful job. Well done, Gilles. So bye-bye.
Thank you, my brother.
And goodbye to everybody who were watching and listening to us. Until next time, so goodbye. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.